It's never about the buildings, it's always about the people. And it's not about 9/11, it's about 9/12. It's about how do you bring people together to help each other recover and form those types of relationships, and that's really the spirit, that you come here and we're always overwhelmed and humbled for a bunch of New Yorkers. Like when we show up and there's a room full of people. So thank you for taking the time today. If I can, I'm just going to tell you the story of how we got started, just so you understand the backstory. I'm not a firefighter. One of our business partners was killed September 11th. He happened to be giving a speech at the World Trade Center. Wanted to do something to honor his memory, didn't know what to do. 2 years later, my 5-year-old son saw a CNN story about the San Diego wildfires and told me that he wanted to send his toys to the kids in California. And I challenged him to collect toys from all the kids in our apartment building. 3 days later, we had 100 volunteers. We had 500 New Yorkers lit up a 17-foot U-Haul truck that me and 2 friends drove from New York City to San Diego. And we put a huge sign on the side that said, "New York says thank you." To me, it was a way of paying homage to my friend Kaveh, but I just wanted to make a bigger statement that New Yorkers would never forget what people from small towns, big cities, all across the country did for us in our time of need. Went up on all these television news programs around the country. A couple months later, it was May 15th, 2004, Evan, who was still 5, was watching the Weather Channel, comes into my home office and says, "Dad, when Josh and I grow up, could we drive the truck if there's a tornado in Ohio?" I realized I'm screwed. I'll never get back to my corporate finance work again. And that was the inspiration. We created New York Says Thank You Foundation, July 2004, with the idea that every year, on or around the 9/11 anniversary, we would take volunteers from New York, send them somewhere in the country where they had a disaster, and help folks rebuild. The first year, September 11th, 2004, we had 14 volunteers, 11 of them New York City firefighters, 3 of them were in the North Tower and the South Tower came down. We flew them out to Southern California and helped build 3 homes in the town during the wildfires. So the first year was 14 volunteers. 2 years ago, we had 1,200 volunteers. We helped rebuild a Little Sioux Boy Scout camp in western Iowa. It was a scout camp hit by a tornado where the 4 boys died and the older kids rescued the younger kids. And we built a chapel on the foundation of the structure where the boys died using trees destroyed in the tornado. So it was literally about how you transform the tragedy into something helpful. The reason we had 1,200 volunteers 2 years ago was because not only did we take more volunteers from New York City firefighters, Ground Zero construction workers, 9/11 family members, New York City school kids, other New Yorkers who witnessed the horror that day, and to them these projects are therapy. But the reason it's grown exponentially is because every year, people from all the small towns that we've helped on previous anniversaries of 9/11, every year they keep showing up with us to help the next community as their way to pay it forward. So I joke around, it's like this big dysfunctional family reunion of all these disaster survivors who get together the weekend before 9/11, double the population of some small town nobody's ever heard of, and do a bar. This year we actually are moving up the date significantly to the end of July for 2 reasons. There are a lot of conflicting commitments that a lot of our FDNY members have for the 10th year anniversary. And also when we heard about the barn and Susan's situation and the animal situation, we realized we can't wait till then. So let's just get this done as quickly as we can. Have an impact in the local community. And get more people to volunteer with the organization, sustain it, grow it, so that we can make more of an impact on all the disabled kids and the seniors and the juvenile centers. If at the end of the day the relationships are strengthened in the community, then we succeed. The barn is just kind of an excuse. Okay. By tornado, May 4th, 2007. We were there in November, and there was nothing left. It was Hiroshima, and there was no color. There were 220 kids in town, and Christmas was coming. We're sitting there thinking, well, how do you empower the kids to bring color back to the community? So we had this wacky idea, why don't we cut out these 1-foot wooden stars and have the kids paint them with these bright colors and inspirational messages and then drill them into 4-foot brightly painted green spikes, and then we could plant them in every single corner of Greensburg. So even though the entire town was gone, like that Christmas, New Year's, the kids were taking their parents and their grandparents out of the FEMA trailers to go up and down where the town used to be to see all the messages. The greatest thing I think we've ever done, and the simplest thing. Every year we do Stars of Hope in different communities hit by disasters. Kids from the previous communities will pre-paint stars and send them to kids at the next community. Right? So we did them in Galveston, Texas. We did them in Fort Hood after the shootings. We did them in Arkansas. We did them at Little Sioux. One of the things that I think is going to be very important, aside from making Stars of Hope with messages, that'll sit here, I think it's even more important to have kids and families from the local community paint Stars of Hope here as part of the barn raising, and let's ship them to Tuscaloosa, and we'll ship them to Birmingham, and we'll ship them to Joplin, and we'll ship a couple to Japan. Because I think that's this community's way of giving back instantly and having the kids here be involved in something where they can make an impact somewhere else. So that I think is going to be a very important thing, a very simple thing. MASH policy. Remember the movie MASH, where there were the signs? Okay. It's become a tradition. It's one of the greatest things, the simplest things, but very powerful. We do a MASH poll where we'll find where everybody who's volunteered from different communities, they write the names of the towns that they're from, and then somebody has a GPS and actually figures out the calculation, like down to the 10th of a mile. And we'll do it on like just raw pieces of lumber or just leftovers, and then tack it on. Now, the first year, keep in mind the challenge we had, right? Last year we had to use the telephone pole.
We're not from this world. I mean, we were like that totally. But the reason why we love you is you said something phenomenal at the end of the day when we were driving you to Atlanta. When you said something to the effect of, it's not even about caring about the animals, it's not even about using the animals for the kids or the seniors or the juvenile community service. It's about getting people to volunteer at the barns so they could feel good about volunteering, so they could volunteer doing other things. And when Susan said that to me, I realized, like, this is about something so much bigger. I told my son, my sons now know this, they're 12 and 9, you'll never know the impact of you wanting to send a toy to a little girl in California started. There's a juvenile detention center in San Francisco, California, where every year they teach the kids the story of New York Says Thank You as a way to teach them. Just because bad stuff happens to you doesn't mean you have to be bad in return. You can do good things with it. There were 4 churches built in 4 villages in the Congo directly because the missionaries in the Congo heard about the building of Baker Chapel in Degonia Springs, traveled to Degonia Springs to find out how that happened. They in turn said, well, we have to help pay it forward and raise some money for one church, and they raised money for 4 churches. And I'm sitting there reading the bedtime story to my kid, like, because you wanted to help a little girl in California who lost her toys in the wildfires, 4 churches in the Congo were just built, right? So when Susan made that comment to me, it's like, it's not even about the animals or about the disabled kids or the seniors or the juvenile offenders. It's about showing families and kids how wonderful it is to volunteer so they can volunteer doing other things. That's when we kind of realized, wow, we're in a great place.
One of the things that happened to me was, during bringing the animals out of the tornado, the juveniles showed up that day. I didn't have mind enough to call them and tell them there was nothing they could do. And when they came up, he had like 21 kids with him from the juvenile court, and they were like, what can we do? And I'm going, I don't know. Well, they helped Josh and Chris get animals out of the barn. Just about 2 weeks ago, one of them wrote in his essay, he had to write a little essay about what doing the community service had meant to him. And he said that he was able to help something. He pulled the goose out of the barn and put it in a cage to be taken somewhere else. And he said it was about helping something that couldn't help itself. How did he put it? I sent it to you.
Yeah, you sent it to me. It's like I feel so much better about myself because I helped something else, not
that couldn't help itself.
That couldn't help itself.
Couldn't help itself. And I thought, wow. Yeah. I mean, you don't even think about it at that time that you're impacting any of the kids, much less in that way. And they said that kid has come around so much by just knowing that he can help something more than himself. So I thought that was really amazing.
And just to kind of wrap it up, I can't thank you all enough, obviously, for being here and for wanting to participate, but I also can't thank you enough because these types of projects are so healing to all the people we bring. It's like you always say, you get more by giving. And what you guys are giving us the opportunity to bring folks who, 9/11 comes around every year. It's kind of a hard time to deal with it. So the more memories you put of a bunch of people, on a slip and slide with a goat in LJ, Georgia, the more when that day comes around, it's just a little bit easier.